Hi, I'm Mark from Trinic. In today's video, we're going to eventually be making a 4-foot by 7-foot concrete table with a 4-inch drop edge, and it's going to have some embedded stone and maybe some stone running across the top. But before we do that, we get a lot of questions about the simple steel table we made. We made one that's 5 foot by 10 foot. Everything we used is 3/16 wall. That means the steel plate is 3/16 wall, and you can tell by the black coating this is a hot rolled steel plate. Now the disadvantage with hot rolled is it'll scratch easy. The advantage is as long as you don't take all this black coating off, it won't rust as bad. We used 3/16 2x2 tubing, and if you looked underneath, you'll see they're spaced at 2 feet on center. This is adequate for GFRC. I would probably place them at a foot on center, or 8 inches if I were pouring big wet cast pieces. Then we just bought some adjustable casters because our floor in our shop's crooked. We have it out here because this thing we abuse it very badly. We scratched it all to hell. So we're going to show you how to take a floor buffer. You can do this when you first buy it too. This is a diamond impregnated floor pad. This one is 800 grit. You don't need to go 200. You don't want to remove the black coating, but this will polish out your steel. We're going to wet polish this. You'll do this when you first build it. And then after that, we're going to wax it, and then we're going to go ahead and form our table. Incidentally, if you ever want to polish out in the yard, this is a really good trick to know. You just drill a hole in your water bucket, and it gives you enough water to polish with. In this case, we're just going to clean the steel up just a little bit. You don't want to take the black off, but you want to slick it up a little bit. This won't remove deep scratches, but it will remove any buildup. It'll soften the edges of scratches. That's it for our quick rebuff. Now we'll clean this with a little acetone, but it does have a greasy feel to it after you do that. That dark substance is actually rust that's been deposited at a high temperature. As I said, you do not want to remove it all. Your table will rust real easy. Now you can seal your table with our SB sealer, only one coat. But if you do that, you've got to wait, I would say at least a few days before you cast on it. We'll clean this up, bring it inside, wax it, and then we'll be ready to start forming. Now I've got it inside, I'm just going to dump a little bit of xylene, wipe it off. Xylene takes longer to flash off. You could use acetone, but as soon as you wipe with acetone, it would flash off. Xylene stays open longer, so you can clean it. Once I do this, I will wax it, and then we'll be ready to cast. Always keep it cleaned and waxed, and it won't rust. Now I'm applying, this is Johnson's paste wax. It's easier to work with, the thinner waxes, and they work fine. I'll put on a coat. If it was the first time using it, I would probably put on a coat, buff it, let it dry, and then put on another coat. But this table's pretty well broken in, so I should be able to put on this coat, make sure I cover everything, wipe off the excess wax, and then take a buffer, buff it out, and it should be protected. Going to be ground, this piece, so I'm reusing melamine. Still has sides that are good. This is simply a straight edge. This is two-sided carpet tape. If you use indoor-outdoor carpet tape, it's not water soluble. The indoor-only stuff gets real gummy when you try to release it. This particular brand is called iTape. I think I bought it at the local hardware store. It's thick enough to do two at once. And as long as you sand the edge of your wood, the tape will stick just fine. I always sand the edge of the melamine, keep it nice and clean, wipe it off, the tape will stick. Cut your excess. And then cut the two apart. Peel off the backing. Stick one in place. Once I get this down, I don't like to use hot melt glue for this part, because it's really hard to get the glue on the edge and then get this to stick down. So I'd like to get this in place first. Then I'll take my straight edge out and I will hot melt glue my edge. So you can see, it's a very good grip. The other side I'm going to cut 4-foot pieces, install them, use a couple spacers, and I'll be formed up. Now I'm going to just use hot melt glue to brace it. These braces will pop right off with a hammer, but they'll get enough of a grip to use. What I do is I get two. I don't have a good hot melt glue gun. You can buy ones that are butane driven, but I just keep two of them fired up. Work your way along. Glue up your edges. The advantage to this method is I didn't buy a sheet of melamine for the base. And I can reuse that steel forever if I keep it clean. What I'm doing now is I'm assembling a frame to go inside of this. The reason I'm doing it is we're going to SCC the back coat, then I'm going to SCC these sides rather than hand. I don't like the hand placing. So this frame will sit on top of the bottom. We'll let it get just a little bit hard, and it'll allow me to fill an inch all the way around quickly. We'll put it in, put a little mud around, get it to work, and we will fill it in quickly. As I said, check your clearance. You want about an inch all the way around. Looks good. I'm going to pour this by myself, so the plan is to self-consolidate the face coat. I'm going to pull out a little face coat before I add plasticizer. Pour the bottom. I'm going to spray the sides really quick with what I saved. And then I'm going to do the same. I'm going to mix up the back coat, self-consolidate the bottom, wait for a while, set this in, and then self-consolidate my edges and we're done. Now I'm going to figure out how much I need by punching it into our trusty spreadsheet. First thing I'll look at is the mix design page to make sure I got the right mix design. Here I've got 50-50 or about a 50-50. You can vary this, a little more cement if you want a creamier mix, a little less sand, and then a little more sand, a little less cement if you want a mix that's more economical basically. But 50-50 is a good starting point. So I've got about a 50-50, 0.30 water cement ratio, should be fine. Maybe you'll need a 0.32. Only change the green values, remember. And then for my chemicals, I'm going to go with 3% of our GFRC admix, 1/4% plasticizer. The glass fiber in the back coat, I'm going to go with 3%. You could go with 3.5, 3 to 3.5 to 4, somewhere in there. Then it's batch weights. I mean the amount required page. For the face coat, I'm going to punch in 1/4 inch or 0.25 inches. My length, I'm going to be 4 feet plus edges. Let's say it's 5 feet or 60 inches. For the width, I'm 7 feet plus another foot, 8 feet, 96 inches. I've got one piece. So this is telling me I need 0.83 cubic feet of back coat at 1/4 inch thick. If I add 5% to that, I come up with 0.88. I would say I'm going to do I could do a whole one. Why not? So then I'll go to batch weight page. Oh, sorry about that. And I'll punch in 1. This batch page weight, the batch weights page is referencing back to the mix design page to get all these values. Now all I have to do is print this page and I've got a batch ticket. It tells me everything I need. You can even add color in. This we're not going to color. I might color a little bit. I might add a touch of brown in there. But no accelerator. We don't really need any today. Glass fiber. We won't put glass fiber in the face coat obviously. And this is a face coat mix. So I'll print this. This will be my face coat. And then for my back coat, I'll go to the amount required page, make this a little smaller, and I'll punch in. You could punch in 0.5 because if you're going for 3/4 overall, but generally I'll punch in 0.75 so I make sure I have enough. 0.75. Same length, width, one piece. So it's telling me I need 2.5 or plus 5%, 2.630. I'm going to go with 2.5. I'm going to make 2 batches. So I go to the batch weight page. I go to 1.25. 1.25. I'm going to cheat a little because I know I can fit 1.25 cubic feet in one bucket. I'll print this page and then I'll have all my batch tickets done. And we'll get set to cast. I'm going to use packing tape to cover any place that raw wood, for instance this will be the bottom, this edge, any place raw wood hits concrete, just put packing tape on it. What happens is the sugars in the raw wood will act as a retarder and the concrete won't set properly in those areas. So it's worthwhile just to add a little bit of packing tape wherever you need it. Now we're going to caulk the piece. I'm going to use clay caulk. This is a sulfur-free plasticine clay. Now what we have is an extruder. You don't need an extruder. You can buy a hand crank extruder at the craft store. You can also buy sulfur-free plasticine clay. I believe it's called a Walnut Creek extruder, and some of our customers have said that they hook up an electric drill to it and they can extrude a piece yay long with it. This one's an air-powered jobber. It's a little bit cold, but it extrudes a line of caulk. You can heat the caulk if you want to. Then you'll need tools to tool the caulk. These are available at craft stores also to work the clay. What I did is I found a real easy way to get the caulk in the corners. This is a tool made to put screen doors back in. And I ground the end flat, and I have a little bit of denatured alcohol. Put it in there so it doesn't stick to the caulk. And I'll show you how I get the caulk into the corners really quick. What I do is I start the caulk in the corner, I hold the bead up, and I take my screen door repairer, and as I'm running, it pushes the caulk into the corner for me. So it gets to be very, very quick. That's the hard part, getting the caulk pushed into the corner. Once you have it pushed in the corner, just take your beading tool and don't pull, push. If you have a spot where it skips, just throw a little bit more in there. The good news about clay caulk is anyone can do it. Ready to mix. I printed out batch tickets for my face coat and the back coat. Since I'll be working, I'll have one helper to clean up and stuff, but you can just about pour this by yourself. I'll mix the face coat in one of these and then 2 back coats in these other 2. These buckets prove to be very handy mixing wise. They're all 16-gallon size. They come from a company called Chemtainer. This one's obviously a little wider, those are narrower. The tall, narrow ones work best. This is far better to mix in than, say, a cut-off 55-gallon plastic drum. So there's nothing on the bottom. We're going to show you how to mix we're going to mix 1.2 cubic feet of back coat in each one of these, so we'll have enough, and we'll show you how to do that with a dual shaft mixer. You can do it if you do it right, and it comes out fine. We'll show you how to do it. I'll mix the face coat in this, 2 back coats. I'll weigh up everything ahead of time so I don't fall behind. 3, 2, 1. Now the plan for batching is I'm going to mix the face coat without plasticizer. I'm going to pull out some face coat. The reason is we're going to use this MK3 sprayer to spray our edges. So we're going to mix it without plasticizer, pull some out, add plasticizer to it, self-consolidate the face. We're going to immediately spray the sides so we don't have to spray the entire thing. And we're going to blend the two with a chip brush so that we can be done in, I don't know, it'll probably take us 10 minutes to pour the face. But that's how you do it. Mix it up, pull some out, add plasticizer, self-consolidate the face, and then spray your sides. And it happens very quickly. Now the trick, if there is one, to getting yourself to blend right, is to always load the sand on the bottom. Let's see, sand, 60 pounds of sand. We're using #1 Q Rock from US Silica. But as you'll see, if we put the sand on the bottom, cement, silica fumes, stack everything up, it will blend better. I'll weigh all of them up before I batch any of them. Next, cement, silica fume, add mix. We add the water, then we'll work our way down with the mixer to the bottom. It works well with the narrower containers. Let's see here. Add mix 2.23. Trinic's GFRC add mix. Incidentally, you can buy these scales at Harbor Freight for $20. They're great for weighing out small quantities. Now what I did is I weighed everything up ahead of time. I've got 2 back coats ready. Fiber, water, chemicals are already in there because that's fine. I've got my face coat ready minus the plasticizer. I put a little color in. Got water, face coat, plasticizer ready. We're going to mix it. The way that you mix it is very important. This is a $700 mixer. There's ones for $150 that probably don't have the power this one does. You don't want to add all the water at once first. Add about 80 to 90% of the water. Start with the top, liquefy that, work your way down through the sand. If it starts to pull a little bit too hard, add a little more water. If you added all the water and plasticizer at one time, if, for instance, this is a little piece of silica fume, what will happen is that'll float and it will escape as you're mixing. It breaks up really easy in a tighter mix. So I'm ready with my face coat. I'm going to mix this, add 80 to 90% of the water, just guess. Take some out, add plasticizer, see what happens. Now what I'm not doing is I'm not pushing down into the sand layer yet. The reason for that is your chunks are going to be in your cement, not your sand. As this gets too tight, I'll go down a little further and add a little water if I need to. You have a margin problem. Starting to get a little tight because I'm into the sand. Add a little more water. I've got it about perfect for shearing it up. you put your sand at the very bottom, work your mixer around, you won't have to scrape the bottom. Now it's a really good mix for breaking up clumps. Look at it, look for clumps. I'd say the majority of my clumps are gone. So I add the rest of my water. Now I'm going to pull out just a little bit to spray my sides. Give me a hand, Benny. Good. Let's see here how much we got. And that's plenty. Now I'm going to add plasticizer to the remaining to self-consolidate the base. This will be very liquid once we're done. Incidentally, as you can see, our plasticizer is extremely fast acting. But I would not want to add it up front or all the water up front because we never get the lumps out. And we should have a lump-free mix that's self-consolidating. Added the ice to this mix, and I'm right about 70 degrees. If you're climbing up 75, 80, add ice. Get it below 70. Self-consolidating is a little less critical than others. Another thing I'm going to do is I save some of the fines from my sand. I'm going to actually mix them into the face coat. A couple rocks spread around. And what I'll do is, so I don't move my rocks, is I'll dump where the rocks aren't, and then I'll dump where the rocks are. Your goal is to have it liquid enough to surround the rocks and hold them. Which this is plenty liquid. I can hear the occasional larger rock dropping in. This will all be stained, but I just wanted a little color up front. It's a very nice self-consolidating mix. I start to fill in where the rocks are. Actually looks good if they move around a little bit. Looks like more of a vein. What I'm looking for as a mix is little to no bleed water, which this mix I hit pretty good. There's little to no bleed water. It's extremely flowable to surround all my rocks quite nicely. I think I'm looking pretty good.
You got one spot up on that side.
I've got to grind this, so I want to get at least a quarter of coverage. 3/8, I wouldn't care. 3/8 would be fine with me. I just don't want to grind past the face coat, if possible. I made sure I made enough and not too little. Now I'm going to switch gears and spray my edges quickly. Now I'm going to spray my edges right quick. Always adjust your gun, spray back in there. That's good. One of the techniques one of my friends taught me is that the area between the face and the back coat, I'm going to come back and use a lot of pressure and work it. It'll hide the seam. Do is work the interface between the side and the top and just work your way up the top with a quick brush. I have it fairly thick, but I'll put another light coat on the side. Actually sprayed very well. This technique is worthwhile anytime you have a big project to do. You'll save a heck of a lot of time not spraying the whole bottom. Now I'll just squirt a little more on my white spots and then just wait. place where people make the mistakes is they don't spray up and over the top. If you don't get up and over the top, your face mix is always way too thin there. So run your mix right up and over that top. I waxed the top of this so it wouldn't suck the water out so bad. Perfect. Now we're going to mix up a back coat using the same procedure. This already has plasticizer in, so I might hold back a little bit more water. This is a cubic foot and a quarter, 1.25 cubic feet. It's about the max you can do in these buckets. Start at the top, liquefy, and work your way down. I've got the top liquefied, so I'm going to scrape it and begin to incorporate some of the sand. As I incorporate the sand, it gets a little tighter. That's when all these lumps are going to disappear. So we've got a nice self-consolidated mix, top to bottom. There might be some noise while I'm dumping it. We're busy batching. We're a little bit behind on ad mix orders. This looks good. Let it sit up a while. If it moves a little, that's okay. Give this a quick, another scratch coat. And I'll trowel this bottom out, make it nice and flat, and then drop my edge form out. Mix up what I think I need for that. Now I like to cheat a little bit when you trowel back coat. This is just a little bit of water. Doesn't take a whole lot. Or else it gets to be a sticky mess on your trowel. All I'm looking for is uniform thickness. I'm just trying to get it leveled out. It looks pretty good. It's supposed to end up at 1 inch all the way around. The best part about using inner form is now it's close to 4 o'clock. We don't want to stay here. So you can scrape your edge clean. So I've just eliminated tomorrow's grinding. It's just been eliminated. Take the excess. A little bit of water. I've got a edge that's the perfect width, top to bottom, doesn't slant. I can cover it now and go home. Piece of sandpaper or rubbing stone tomorrow, and the edge is done. With no grinding. Now it's 4:30 in the afternoon, and we want to strip this at 7 o'clock tomorrow. I know that I'm going to need some supplemental heat. I didn't use any accelerator, I could have, but as long as we get this sucker over 110 degrees, we can strip it tomorrow. First thing is plastic, and then we're just going to use regular old electric blankets to make it kick. Plastic locks the moisture in. Electric blankets will give us some supplemental heat. We'll put insulation on top of that. And by tomorrow morning it'll be ready to strip. If it was really cold, I would have used our Trinic's accelerator. That's probably 2 to 3% dosage. We could still strip it the next day. Summertime, nothing, no heat. You need some accelerator. There's your plug thing. These particular blankets will stay on for 10 hours, then they shut off automatically. I guess they don't want them cooking some old woman. But it's usually enough to get it cured to where we can strip it. Sure, these suckers are hot. Like this one got run over, huh? Good enough. It's 7 o'clock the next morning, so they've been under wraps for about 14 hours. That's enough as long as your shop temp and your shop temp above 60, concrete temp goes up above 100, maybe 110. If it were a long flat piece, I would definitely use accelerator in it. Probably 2% of Trinic's stage 2 accelerator. That way it'll be less likely to warp. Since this has returns on it, as long as we don't break it, we'll be fine. It doesn't want to bend because the beams on the side will keep it from bending. Best I can tell. Right now it's probably in the 90s, I would say. Now, because we use hot mix glue, these pop right off. These have been reused twice already, so we're not worried about using them again. Grab a rubbing stone. To get this out, you don't want to take and pry against the top of your piece like this, or this. Get your bar all the way down at the bottom, then you can pry. taped it. Same with the long strip. Now, before you touch this, it's super sharp. If I were to run my hand down there, I would get a nasty gash. So since we flattened it out last night, all we need is a stone. I'm just going to rub the side, rub the top, and you've got the edge done without grinding. Now I would not do this if I wanted a perfect off the form finish, but we're going to grind that, so I'm not really worried about it.
It's really far down on that side.
Pull up your way a little bit. What's really convenient to use are these sawhorses you can buy at the home centers. I don't have the DeWalt stock, but the DeWalt ones work a lot better than the other kinds. They have a screw hole here in the side. Our goal is to make this frame, we have a forklift, so this frame will be forklifted from underneath to lift the piece. So we're going to put screws in to keep the sawhorses attached to the wood, and then these will be screwed to there. Anytime we move the piece, we'll move it with this attached to it. And you just disassemble them for different size pieces. It works pretty good. Okay, I'm going to use to watch my forks and pull over. Make sure we clear.
I'd say that's pretty good. Set it down and see what we got.
Both ways?
Yup.
How's it looking?
I think it looks pretty good to me.
Now the fork's going to clear.
You're good. Oh, you gotta pick your forks up though. You got them at too much of an angle.
How's that?
You're good.
Short center, we can always move it by hand, right? Here's what our surface looks like. You can see all the scratches on our steel plate show up because we abused it a little bit. It would be hard for me to pour an off the form finish with our steel the way it is. I could put a piece of Formica down and have a perfect finish, but not off the form. But our self-consolidating mix worked very well. It surrounded all the rocks. I don't see any major voids. Now I've just got to do a lot of cutting. I like to do the cutting the next day. If you wait 2 or 3 days, it's very hard to cut. But we'll pick this up. We're going to grind this outside because we're too damn busy inside to have room. Plus it makes a mess. But with our containment, with our table underneath, I'll pick the whole thing up. I hope you can pardon the background noise, but we're manufacturing in our plant. It's actually a very nice, beautiful place that we get to work in. This is a, probably like a 10 grit. It's metal bond diamonds in a very aggressive pattern. This will give you the initial cut fast, down to level all the rocks out. Anytime you grind, I'm not a big fan of grinding. This is a table for my dentist. He's got to stick tools in my mouth, so I better do a good job. When you grind, you can't skip grits, meaning I can't go 10 to 200. We're going to go to 200 and call it done. I've got to go 10, 50, 100, 200. So this 10 will leave striations in the piece. Well, I think I've got 30 grit, so I go 10, 30, 50. The striations will get out. You could do this grind if you wore a respirator. You could dry grind if you wore a respirator. I'll wet grind because I ran water and electric. Our SCC mix worked about perfect. We've got all the rocks surrounded. I'm seeing very, very few holes. You can see the little ones we actually mixed in with the paste coat when we dumped it. Overall, it looks great. It's cutting, it never cuts easy. The key is don't dig a gouge. If you dig a gouge, you got to work it out. So hold your grinder flat as you can and just let the grinder work back and forth and do most of the work. It's coming out nice. This is about 10 minutes worth of work. If I had to estimate, I would say, this is an hour's worth of grinding. Not too bad. As long as you hold, the whole key is to hold your grinder flat. If you start to get a ridge like this, you just ride over it flat. All these striations here, because I haven't gone, and it's touch too. This is pressure. If you look down here, I used a lighter pressure. You'll still see the striations that have to come out, but there's no gouges. That's important. Don't leave gouges behind. If you get a gouge, such as this gouge here, I'm not done this area. I'll ride the grinder flat over top of the whole thing. I'm not worried about my edges yet. My edges are going to get machined. He wants them to be rounded over. But here's the contrast between ground and unground. Just a little bit more to go and I'm ready to shift to 50 grit. Now this is the area where I had that lump. I'll use lighter pressure, back the whole thing up so that it'll take away those divots. The whole key is pressure equal. Now I'll put a divot in on purpose just to run uneven pressure. Once you get a divot like that, you've got to ride the divot until you smooth it out. If I were to leave that divot in, 30 grit would have a hell of a time taking it out. So you got to make sure if you get divots, you got to get them out. And ride the whole thing nice and flat, smooth and easy for your final pass. when you're first cutting, you'll see I almost stand over the machine and push straight down because I want pressure. Now here, my clue is I'm exposing the little rocks that are in the face coat. I can't see them yet. And I'm getting to the edges of the bigger rocks. Now I'm seeing the small rocks that I put in the face coat are exposed. Looks like most of my bigger rocks I can see the edges. So now rather than stand over the machine and push hard, I'm just going to try to balance it, run light to try to get most of the striations out. Now before I put this away, I will just look at that area, make sure I didn't leave any severe divots. It feels extremely coarse right now. I think I'm good. Time to move on to the next one. What I'm going to do now is I'm going to go over this whole top. I think I've got a 30 grit pad, which is still a cutting pad. 30 grit will cut before I machine this edge. I want to have everything cut to the profile before I machine this edge. If I were to machine this edge first, I would cut into the machined edge, so I'll save that for later. But I'll do it before I do 200 so I can work my grinder and smooth the edge. So now I think top with 30 grit. Edges I'm going to save till 50 grit so I don't have to do a lot of work. And then I machine my edge and then go 100, 200, top and sides, and it's done. Now I'm using a 30 grit pad on my 3-head machine. I just happen to have one of these. If you don't have one, you could do the entire project with a 6-inch grinder. It would just take a heck of a lot longer. 30 is still a very aggressive cutting diamond. So I'm going to do the whole thing with 30. I know it's done by two things. One is pull. The machine is pulling. Once it gets it cut flat, it pulls less because it's digging less. The other is vision. You just scrape away and look at it. But here I'll hit the whole thing with 30, 50, 100, stop, sheen my edge, do my edge, and then I'll hit the whole thing with 200, and then we'll be ready to grout. Now on to my least favorite part, the edges. I'm going to open them up with 50 grit and then hit them with 100, and then that'll be it until we grout. And then after we grout, removing the grout, we'll use 200, and that kind of saves a step. In fact, I'll open them up with 50, then I'm going to router this edge. We completely lost our round over. The reason is we cut into this so deep, so I've got to route one back in there. The next step I'm going to do is round over this top edge. My dentist wants a nice round over. What happened was when we ground down and we ground past where that caulk joint was. This is a 1/4 inch, this might be a 3/8 inch rounding over bit. You can buy these from granite supply places. They have a water feed. There's a little bearing here that acts as a guide. All you do is run it until it stops cutting. Then you gotta sand it a little to make it smooth. But it's pretty easy to work with. It's exactly the same way a router bit would work. Here's a close-up of what you end up with. This is why we made sure that our face coat was thick enough, because if it wasn't thick enough, we would have ground right through it. That's taking out a lot of material, and it leaves a little ridge at the top and the bottom. We'll feather this out with a 200 grit wet dry, and we'll make it nice and smooth. 200 grit doesn't cut a whole lot, so you can use it on an edge. My next step is I'm going to soften my edge and get rid of all the chatter marks that the bit left. Same with this. I'll use water here. Now I'm going to shut the water off. I'm just going to soften this edge a little bit, even though I didn't round it over. So when people go up there with their legs, they have a soft edge to hit. Use a flexible backer pad and a 200 grit. You could use a 400, 200 is fine. And just get rid of all the chatter marks. That's it for processing. Next we are going to let this dry. Thankfully it's not sunny out. If it was sunny out I would never grout outside. But it's overcast and 65. It's actually really good for grouting. I've let my piece dry completely, and then I got a patch. There's really not many bug holes at all. There's little tiny holes where the rocks were caved in. For my patch mix, I'm going to mix 70% Portland, 20% CSA, or Quicks, people used to call it, and I'm going to use Trinic's admix at 3%, our GFRC admix, and I'm just going to mix it with water. Now these ones here, because of the way it is, I'm going to put it on and then wet my slab. You don't want water in the bug holes. You can't have water in the bug holes or else you can't patch them. But you also don't want this to suck all the water out. So I'll wet my slab just a little bit. Now I'm actually going to apply it with a trowel, back and forth, and I'll leave a little bit of a skim coat on top. You got to work quick, because it will run away from you. The benefit is this will get hard by tomorrow, no problem. Oh, out of juice. That's it. I'm going to dump the whole thing out. Get this too. As it dries out, I will wet it up a little. I'm not really worried about my edges. This whole thing gets stained, so I'm not really worried about color. This is pretty easy to do. And you'll begin to see the bug holes emerge. You never want to put it on thick or else you'll never see the bug holes getting filled. Once I get this down, I'm going to start troweling it out. Eventually when I dye this whole side is going to be dark black. It's going to go to dark black and then finish with a brown inside. So that whole edge will disappear. Okay, I'm just about ready to trowel it. Work it with a trowel. You can see the low areas. Once I think I've got it worked everywhere, use my eye and just look. Looks to me like the little guys are full. Now I can leave a skin coat over the whole thing. Not too thick, not too thin. It's all trowel pressure. If you go like this, you can scrape it all off. If you vary your trowel's angle, you can leave a little bit behind. You don't want to leave too much because it's really hard to grind it off. You see the way those darken? Customer. They look pretty good. I'll let it get just a touch hard. Trowel a real thin coat. Oh, they're looking pretty good. That way when I'm bridging one, it'll bridge rather than dip in. If you see any spots that need a little more, just leave a little extra. And that's it. 5-minute turbo fix. I'll have to grind this off. I have a little bit extra to get rid of. You're getting it so you can see the top through the grout. That way it'll be somewhat easy to grind. There's a spot that needs a little more. Move a little high. I think I'm done. Shut it down, Vinny. Now it's been 24 hours, so I'm ready to polish off my slurry. Because I used a little bit of CSA in it, I put it on thin. It bridged all my gaps, didn't shrink, and it's gotten good and hard. Now I got a little lazy. Rather than drag the hose out, I have a 5-gallon bucket with a hole in the bottom. I'm going to use that as my water supply because this will only take, I don't know, 15 minutes. And it doesn't need a whole lot of water. 2 buckets worth of water. I've got it cleaned off, ready to color. Just looking to see if there's any spots, especially along these edges, that need touched up a little. Now on to the fun part. Everything's done, cleaned up edges, ground, smooth. It's time to color. To color this, what I did is I used a little bit of integral color. I used some dark walnut, I believe, just a touch, because I didn't want a stark white piece to start. We're going to use Trinic's Versacolor on the surface. My goal is to start light here. As I work my way outward to the edge is going to disappear almost to black. Trinic's Versacolor, number one, it's not a dye, it's actually a pigment dispersion. What that means, it has the highest UV stability available. You can dilute it in acetone, denatured alcohol, water, or what I prefer is to dilute it in lithium silicate. because you're densifying and chemically reacting with the concrete as you're coloring. It needs to be sealed. You'll see when we're done and you let it sit for a day, you can rub real hard, a little come off in your fingers, you gotta seal it, but it is permanent. It's as permanent as it can be. This is in lithium silicate. I'm gonna start with coffee. You start with a slightly damp rag. As I said, it's not paint. It's meant to be translucent. So you can't put it on thick and just leave it. If you do that, it won't work. So I just like to work it, especially the first one. I'll move the camera closer, you can see it. The first one is the one that has the most effect. This is diluted 4 ounces will do 1 gallon. That's what the dilution rate is. I don't want any lines. I'm trying to avoid lines. It's really hard to get rid of a line if you get one. This is coffee. It looks like coffee with a little bit of cream in it. Your best effect will come from layering colors. The more colors you layer, in my opinion, the better it starts to look. Another neat trick is you can actually color your sealer with this. Your rag actually gets better as you use it. I'm not worried about a thick build, especially for this first color. This is a base color. I would never leave that. It's got to be spread out, worked, whatever you want to do with it. Starting to look pretty good. First layer. That's about it for the first layer. Check for any puddles. Now, I wouldn't put the second layer on until this is dry. Like this is dry down here, you could do it. Up there, I wouldn't. Second layer, I'm going to use a walnut stain. I'm going to stay away from the rocks a little bit. Start to work this darker stain away from the rocks to highlight the rocks. What I'm doing now is I'm taking my black, putting it on my used rag, soaking it up good. I'm working my edge, and I'm bringing the black over top of the edge where the rocks aren't. Just starting to build some dark to light highlights. Eventually I want this edge to be really dark, so I'm going to let it dry and probably go with straight black after a little while. Work it up in there a little bit. You don't want any runs. I've got it saturated pretty well everywhere, so I'm not going to do anything else to it today. You can wait an hour and still do stuff to it, but it's late in the day. I'll let this sit overnight and it'll all chemically activate, and then I'll continue moving, mixing in some more color. It'll give you a clue how it's going to look when you seal it by the way it looks wet. That's why the outer part looks darker. But it's getting there. Now that I'm done applying color, if you want to, you can take a wet rag and you can blend edges a little bit. Blending the lights with the dark. Take a little color off the rock. You can rub, as long as after you rub, you dab. For instance, I'm going to rub where the rocks are a little bit to lighten that area. Dab the edge to blend it. Then I'll really get the light and the darks happening. Now, because it's lithium silicate, I also densified this top. Dab and blend it in. If you need more, wait till tomorrow. You can add more color. Or see what you got. If you like it, leave it. But this, we can seal in class on Thursday. Today is only Monday, so we've got plenty of time. I would wait at least one day. I would let this rest tomorrow before sealing it, rather than hurry it. Pretty easy. It's been about, I don't know, an hour it took me to do this whole top. Which isn't bad at all.